Welcome to True Betrayal Stories, where secrets are exposed, lies unravel, and justice is served. If you love shocking betrayal stories and satisfying revenge, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss an update. They say the smallest things can change your life. In my case, it was a thin white stick at the bottom of a trash bin. I wasn't looking for anything. I had just gotten home early from a tech conference in Denver. My flight was ahead of schedule, and I wanted to surprise my wife Alyssa and our two kids, Ellie and Mason. But instead, I got the kind of surprise that rips your chest open and leaves you gasping for clarity. I walked into the kitchen, expecting laughter, expecting chaos. Ellie arguing with Alexa about bedtime songs, Mason running around in his little dinosaur pajamas. But the house was quiet. Alyssa had taken the kids to her sister's for the weekend. I dropped my suitcase and headed to the master bathroom to wash up. That's when I saw it. Half buried in the bathroom trash, just under a wad of tissues and a used makeup wipe, was a positive pregnancy test. My first reaction wasn't even anger. It was confusion. Deep, freezing confusion. I had a vasectomy 3 years ago. No slip-ups, no reversals. Confirmed sterile. So unless science had suddenly changed its mind, or I had spontaneously re-evolved, this couldn't be mine. My hands shook as I pulled it out of the bin, staring at the double pink lines like they were mocking me. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. Maybe it was old, maybe it was her sister's, but I knew every inch of this house. That bin only had today's trash. I put the stick down, walked back into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed trying not to spiral. Alyssa and I had been married for 9 years. We met in college. I was studying computer engineering. She was majoring in business administration. She had this fierce energy, confident, charming, unstoppable in heels. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it felt solid, real. We had built a life, a home, 2 beautiful kids. Or so I thought. I picked up my phone, hesitated, then opened the browser. Can a vasectomy fail after 3 years? Scroll, scroll. Extremely rare. Less than 1%. Most failures occur within the first few months. I stared at the glowing screen until my eyes blurred. Then I did something I never imagined I'd do. I ordered 2 at-home DNA paternity test kits. One for Ellie, one for Mason. The next few days were agony masked as routine. Alyssa came home Sunday evening, acting like everything was normal. She kissed me on the cheek, smiled at the kids. I watched her closely. Every gesture, every tone, every text she typed when she thought I wasn't looking. She didn't seem guilty, but maybe she was just good at hiding it. Or maybe she'd done this before. That night after she fell asleep, I slipped into the bathroom and checked the drawer under the sink. There, buried beneath tampons and unopened makeup bags, was a box of birth control pills. I flipped the pack over. A few were missing, which made no sense. If she was pregnant, why still take the pill? Unless she didn't know yet, unless she'd just taken a test on a whim, unless this wasn't the first time. I placed everything back exactly how it was and returned to bed. I stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every memory, every unexplained absence, every working late text. Had I missed the signs? Had she been lying for years? By Wednesday, the kits arrived. I waited until she went grocery shopping to collect the samples. I swabbed Ellie's cheek while she was coloring, told her it was a germ test for school. Mason was trickier, but a Paw Patrol sticker helped. I did mine last. Triple-checked the envelopes, drove them to the post office myself. Then came the worst part, waiting. While the test processed, I ordered a phone cloning device and 2 discrete cameras, one for the living room, one for our bedroom. I wasn't ready to confront her, not yet. I needed more, something solid, unshakable. Thursday night, as Alyssa took a bath, I finally had a window. I unlocked her iPhone, pretending to play music for the kids. But nothing jumped out. No suspicious texts, no hidden photos. Then I remembered. Alyssa always kept an old phone in her gym bag. Said it was for Spotify when she worked out. I'd never questioned it. After she fell asleep, I dug through her gym bag and found it. Screen cracked, still charged. I plugged it in. Bingo. There were messages. Dozens. From someone saved as JW. The texts weren't overtly sexual, but they dripped with familiarity, inside jokes, late-night check-ins. Can't wait to see you Monday. One thread read, JW. Did he suspect anything when you came back? Alyssa. No. He's clueless, as always. JW. You're perfect. Soon we won't have to hide anymore. That night I didn't sleep. I lay next to her, watching the woman I thought I knew, wondering how long she'd been wearing this mask. And deep inside, something inside me shifted. Not just heartbreak, not just betrayal, resolve. Tyler Adams was no longer the clueless husband. He was about to become her worst mistake. That Friday, I left work early, told the team I had a migraine, which wasn't entirely untrue. My mind hadn't stopped pounding since I read those messages. At home, Alyssa was already out with the kids. Some mommy and me play date she'd mentioned 2 days ago. I had the house to myself and a few hours to get serious. First, I installed the cameras. One in the living room, tucked into the bookshelf near the corner lamp. The second went inside the bedroom, hidden inside the air vent grill. From that angle, I could monitor the bed, her side of the closet, and the ensuite bathroom door. I tested the signal, synced everything to a cloud folder under a random name, checked the angles, made sure audio was clean. Then I moved on to her gym bag. The phone was still there. Same cracked screen, same charger she always claimed was just for the treadmill. I powered it on again. Messages with JW were still there, and I began screen recording the conversations, time-stamped with geolocation data when available. There were messages about meeting at hotels, some bills she'd pay back later, and worse, photos. Alyssa in a silk robe I had never seen before, her legs across someone's lap, his hand barely visible in the frame, wearing a silver Rolex. I zoomed in. Jordan Wolfe, CEO of the financial firm she worked at, wore the exact same watch, always boasting about it during company galas. So that's who JW was, her boss, her married boss. My stomach turned. I copied everything. Then I checked the Notes app, and that's when I found something I wasn't prepared for. A calendar marked implant removal, March 12th. 2 weeks before the pregnancy test, she had planned this, planned for him to get her pregnant. When Alyssa returned that evening, she was radiant, smiling, carrying a sleepy Mason, while Ellie sang something off-key beside her. I forced a smile, played the part. We had dinner like a normal family. Chicken nuggets for the kids, takeout Thai for us. She asked about my day. I lied. I asked about hers. She lied better. That night, while she showered, I checked the living room camera's live feed. She had left her purse on the couch. I zoomed in. No phone. She wasn't keeping the second phone in her bag anymore. Where the hell was it? After she fell asleep, I scoured the bedroom. Quietly, methodically. Closet, empty. Underwear drawer, only lace and perfume. Then I checked the ventilation duct, the same one where I'd hidden the camera. That's when I saw it. Taped inside, behind the metal slats, was the phone. Turned off, hidden away like a dirty secret. I pulled it out gently, turned it on. It was the same device from earlier. She'd moved it from her gym bag after I used it last time. She was covering her tracks. My heart thumped. I knew I didn't have long. She was a fast sleeper, but light. I cloned the device using a preloaded app, transferring everything to my own backup phone. Then I carefully placed it back, retaped it, and climbed into bed like nothing had happened. The next day I met with Madison, my assistant for over 6 years. She had seen me at my best and worst, but never like this. "You look like hell," she said, handing me a coffee as I slid into her car. I nodded, because I live there now. We drove in silence until we reached the lakefront. I handed her the backup phone and said nothing. She spent 20 minutes flipping through the messages, photos, notes, and locations. "Tyler," she said quietly, "this is next-level betrayal." I just stared at the water. "It's not just the affair," I muttered. "She planned it. She planned the pregnancy. And the kids." I couldn't finish. My voice cracked. I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet. Madison didn't push. She rested her hand gently on mine. "Okay," she said. "Then we go tactical. No more guessing, no more waiting. It's time to bring in someone who knows how to burn things down the right way." She took me to meet Veronica Chase, a family lawyer known for being ruthless with cheaters and manipulators. Veronica was all sharp suits, sharp words, and sharper instincts. After skimming the backup phone and hearing the short version of my story, she leaned back in her chair and asked one question. "What do you want, Tyler?" "I want her to lose everything she used me to build," I said. "And I want him exposed, publicly, professionally, personally." Veronica smiled. "Then we go nuclear." She laid out 3 options. 1, stay silent, play nice, and walk away. I laughed. 2, settle amicably, split assets, accept humiliation quietly. I nearly walked out. 3, go full scorched earth, file for divorce, sue for misrepresentation, contest paternity, weaponize every contracting clause available. "You already have more than enough to justify action," she explained, "but if you want maximum leverage, we'll need confirmation on the kids. Then we can bring down her, her boss, and possibly even her entire company." Madison glanced at me, waiting. I took a deep breath. "Then let's light the match." The DNA results came in on a quiet Tuesday morning. I hadn't slept the night before. I kept checking the tracking page, refreshing the inbox, pacing like a madman. By sunrise, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely unlock my phone. And there it was, a single email. Subject line, "Your paternity results are ready." I didn't open it. Not right away. Instead, I stared at the screen like it might change its mind. Like maybe the lab would write back and say, "Sorry, our mistake. You're definitely their dad." But science doesn't lie. Only people do. I was still frozen in my chair when Madison walked into my office. She set down a coffee like she always did, but this time she didn't leave. "You haven't looked, have you?" I shook my head. "I can't." She reached for the phone. "May I?" I handed it to her. She clicked the link and entered the login I'd created. The silence between us stretched. Her eyes scanned the screen. Then she looked up. Her face told me everything before her lips moved. "I'm sorry, Tyler. Neither of them are yours." I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just shattered. All those memories. Ellie's first steps, Mason's first words, late-night lullabies, birthday cakes, all of them slammed into my chest like a freight train. But now every one of them was a lie, a performance I wasn't even meant to be in. "I raised them," I whispered. "I held them when they were sick. I stayed up all night when Mason had RSV. I taught Ellie how to ride a bike." "I know," Madison said softly. "You were a real father. She wasn't a real wife." The anger came next. Hot, blinding. She let me believe. She looked me in the eye every day for 9 damn years. She stood beside me when I got sterilized, knowing they weren't mine. Who does that? "Someone who doesn't deserve a man like you," Madison said, her voice calm but sharp. I slammed my fist against the desk, the pain dull compared to the rage inside. "I want to burn everything. Her job, his life, their future. I want to erase every inch of what they built on my back." Madison put her hand on mine. "Then focus, feel it, use it, but don't let it destroy you." Later that afternoon, she drove me somewhere, without telling me why. I didn't even care. My world was spinning too fast to question directions. It wasn't until we pulled up to a urology clinic that I understood. "What are we doing here?" I asked, eyes narrowing. "You told me once," she said, "that the only thing more painful than betrayal is not knowing if you'll ever start over. This might give you a choice again." I didn't move. She looked at me. I checked. Vasectomy reversals are possible. Your doctor's one of the best. And if you ever want a real family, the kind that's truly yours, well, I figured you deserved to know the door isn't closed forever. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the gesture. Maybe it was hope. Or maybe for the first time in days, I felt something besides grief. I leaned forward and hugged her. Not out of romance, not yet, but out of gratitude, out of survival. She held me tightly. No words, just silence. And for once, it didn't feel heavy. It felt grounding. Inside, the doctor walked me through everything. Procedure details, risks, recovery time, success rates. 95%, he said, if done within 5 years. I had the vasectomy 3 years ago, I murmured. Then you're in the sweet spot, he replied. You could very likely father children again. That sentence, that sentence. It cracked something open in me I didn't even know was still alive. On the ride back, I looked out the window, watching the city blur by. The betrayal still throbbed like an open wound, but something had shifted. A possibility. I turned to Madison. Thank you for not letting me drown. She smiled faintly. You're not the type to drown. You're the type to rebuild. And she was right. If Alyssa had stolen 9 years of my life, then I would make damn sure she never stole another minute. She didn't just cheat on me. She robbed me of fatherhood, of identity, of trust. But now I had clarity. Now I had fuel. And it was time to make her and Jordan Wolf choke on the fire they lit. Wednesday morning hit different. I didn't wake up to panic or pain. I woke up with purpose. By 8 a.m., I was sitting across from Madison in our office's glass-walled meeting room, staring at spreadsheets that would soon become weapons. We need to move fast, she said, tapping her tablet. The longer this drags, the more likely Alyssa catches wind of what we're doing. I nodded. Start with the accounts. I want everything not jointly owned either moved or dissolved. I already checked, she replied. Your name alone is on the company, the house, and your 401k. She's only on the joint checking and the kids' college funds. Shut the college funds down, I said coldly. They're not mine. She paused. Are you sure? I didn't answer. She didn't ask again. By noon, we were in the office of Veronica Chase. If Madison was the engine, Veronica was the gunpowder. All right, she said, eyes scanning the updated financials. We have a few plays here. Number 1, bleed your assets dry. Sounds dramatic, I muttered. She smirked. Not really. You sell company shares to yourself, technically to a holding trust offshore. The money moves into a structure protected from divorce proceedings. You take a salary cut. You liquidate the house equity and dump it into business expansion. On paper, you become asset poor and salary broke. And in reality, you still control everything, just not in a way a court can easily divide. I leaned back. Let's do it. Veronica raised an eyebrow. No hesitation? None. Good. She handed me a folder. Sign here, here, and initial there. The next 72 hours were a blur of signatures, meetings, and transfers. I cashed out the 401k and used it to buy back shares from a long-retired co-founder. Liquidated the equity in the house. Transferred it to a new trust. Renegotiated my salary to look like I was just another mid-level manager trying to survive. Every move was legal. Every step was calculated. By the end of the week, on paper, Tyler Adams was just another working stiff with barely enough to cover rent. And Alyssa? She thought I was flying to New York for a system rollout. Instead, I was building the walls of her downfall. Meanwhile, Madison and Veronica worked on another angle. She's still working at that financial firm, right? Veronica asked. Yeah. Jordan Wolf's her direct boss. Madison chimed in, which means there's likely a non-fraternization clause in their employment contract, Veronica finished. Most large firms have one, especially in finance. If we can prove they're involved, both of them violated policy. And, I asked, they're looking at termination, no severance, and civil liability if the firm gets sued by shareholders for misconduct or PR damage. Can we prove it? We already have messages, photos, the hotel records you pulled with her second phone's location data. Add a few clips from your home surveillance, and boom, open and shut. Friday afternoon, I met with our company's internal legal counsel. I played it casual, as if it were just a quarterly check-in. But when I told him I needed a clause re-added to our partnership contracts, one that prevents any spouse from claiming ownership during a split, he raised an eyebrow. Tyler, everything all right? Getting ahead of things, I said smoothly. Just want to protect what we've built. You know how messy divorces get. He nodded slowly. Smart move. If he knew more, he didn't say. And I liked that. Later that evening, after Madison dropped me off at home, I sat alone in the kitchen, reviewing the revised documentation Veronica had sent. One phrase jumped out from the notes and read, Her power is built on the illusion of stability. Remove the illusion, and it all comes crashing down. It stuck with me, because she had built an entire world on lies. Lies that made me believe I was safe, that we were a family, that love was real. But now I was the architect of her collapse. And Jordan Wolf? He was just collateral damage. The footage was ready. It was a quiet Sunday evening. The kids were with Alyssa's parents, and she was out running errands, or so she claimed. I sat alone in the den, blinds half drawn, laptop open, heart thumping in my chest like it was trying to escape. I clicked on the folder labeled Saturday Bedroom Cam, time-stamped 6:43 p.m. The screen flickered, then stabilized. The bedroom was empty at first. Sunlight bled through the curtains. 10 minutes passed. Then I saw it. The door opened. Alyssa entered, wearing that blue blouse I'd complimented just the day before. She looked around, moved to the vent, and retrieved something. The second phone. She tapped the screen, typed something, smiled, and then the doorbell rang. She rushed to the front door. I switched feeds to the living room cam. A man stepped inside, tall, well-dressed, familiar posture, Jordan Wolf. He didn't look nervous, didn't glance around like a man sneaking into another man's home. He looked comfortable, like he'd done this before. Alyssa threw her arms around him, kissed him, deep, passionate, no hesitation. My throat tightened. Then came the sound that shattered what was left of me. "Mason!" Alyssa called from the hallway. "Come say hi." Tiny footsteps. Then a little boy, my little boy, ran into frame. He didn't hesitate. He ran straight into Jordan's arms. "Daddy Jordan!" I slammed the laptop shut. I couldn't breathe. It was like my lungs forgot how. My eyes burned, my fists clenched, and my stomach lurched. I ran to the bathroom and threw up everything I had left inside me. That sound. That damn sound. "Daddy Jordan!" I stumbled back into the hallway, hit the wall, slid to the floor. I sat there for what felt like hours, hugging my knees like a child, rocking back and forth as the weight of everything finally collapsed on top of me. They had replaced me, in my own home, with my own son. I didn't hear the door open, didn't hear Madison call my name, but I felt her hands, software, steady. She knelt beside me, saw the wreck I'd become, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she didn't say anything. She just pulled me into her arms. I didn't resist. I let go. All the rage, the grief, the betrayal, it poured out of me like a flood. I buried my face in her shoulder and sobbed like I hadn't since my father died, and she held me like she'd always been meant to. Not as my assistant, but as the only person left who hadn't lied to me. When I could finally speak again, my voice was hoarse. "He has a key. Jordan, he has a goddamn key to my house." Madison didn't flinch. "You're going to take it all back, Tyler. Everything they stole. We're going to make them regret ever crossing you." I nodded weakly, still trembling. "He's not just screwing my wife. He's replacing me." She looked me dead in the eye. "Then let's make sure he never forgets whose life he tried to steal." That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up rewatching the footage, cataloging every detail, every timestamp. I labeled the files, backed them up 3 ways. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was angry, controlled, focused, and I knew exactly what came next. At 7 a.m. Monday morning, I walked into Veronica's office with a USB drive in my pocket and fire in my eyes. She took one look at me and raised an eyebrow. "You've seen it." I nodded. "Good," she said, standing up. "Then it's time." "Time for what?" She grinned. "To return the favor. You've been stabbed in the back for years, Tyler. It's only fair we drive a stake through their future." I placed the USB on her desk. "Everything you need is in there." "Excellent," she replied, already booting up her laptop. "This footage, paired with the messages, phone records, and paternity results, it'll destroy her credibility in court. But more importantly, we now have irrefutable evidence Jordan violated his company's code of conduct." "Will he lose his job?" I asked. "Oh," she said, smiling wider. "He'll lose a lot more than that." Monday morning, 10 a.m. sharp. That's when the first strike landed. Somewhere downtown, Alyssa was sitting in a sleek glass conference room with her colleagues and senior managers, probably nodding, smiling, pretending like she wasn't living a lie. Until the door opened. A man in a dark suit stepped in. "Alyssa Adams?" he asked. She looked up, confused. "Yes. You've been served." He handed her a thick envelope in front of half her department. A few gasps, a few curious stares. A manager whispered something. Alyssa's face went pale. She opened the envelope. Inside, divorce petition, DNA test results, screenshots of text messages, images from the hidden cameras, and a signed statement from my lawyer. Veronica made sure it was thorough, tactful, undeniable. And that wasn't all. At the exact same time, 10:03 a.m., in another delivery arrived at her parents' home, her two sisters' addresses, her personal email, her LinkedIn inbox, her Facebook Messenger, all containing a digital package titled "The Truth About Alyssa" from her husband. It included evidence she cheated for years, DNA proof that I wasn't the biological father of either child, photos of her and Jordan Wolfe, a brief statement from me, calm, composed, and devastatingly clear. I didn't expect her to come home right away, but 40 minutes later, I heard the tires screech outside. She burst through the front door like a storm. "Tyler!" she screamed. "What the hell did you do?" I stood in the foyer, waiting, calm. She stormed into the living room, waving the papers. "You're trying to humiliate me in front of my job? My family?" "No," I said evenly. "I'm simply correcting the story. You've been telling lies for 9 years. I thought it was time for some truth." "You're out of your mind," she spat. "You don't get to do this." I walked over to the entry table and picked up another envelope, one she hadn't seen yet. "This one," I said, handing it to her, "is the updated deed to the house, solely in my name. You never contributed a dime when we bought it. You were between jobs, remember?" She opened it. Her hands started to shake. "I want you out," I said. "Today." "You can't do that. This is my home too." "Not anymore." At that moment, the au pair, Emma, walked in, holding Mason's lunchbox. "I can take the kids to—" "You're fired," I said, turning to her. She froze. "What?" "You covered for her. You knew. I have footage of you letting Jordan into the house, talking to him like an old friend. He's not family. He never was." I didn't know." "You did," I snapped. "You knew enough, and you said nothing." Alyssa stepped forward. "You can't fire her. I pay her salary." I shrugged. "Not anymore. I already contacted the agency, explained everything. She's blacklisted. You want to keep her? You can figure out taxes, health care, and insurance on your own." Emma's face turned white. She set the lunchbox down and backed away. "You're insane," Alyssa hissed. "No," I said coldly. "I'm done." She stared at me, speechless. For the first time, truly stunned. "What about the kids?" she asked, voice cracking. "You're really going to abandon them?" I looked her straight in the eye. "They're not mine. You made sure of that. They love you, Tyler. They call you Dad." "And that's what makes this so cruel," I said. "You didn't just betray me. You used them. You built a life on my back and lied with every breath." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. "Take your kids," I said, walking to the door. "Go to their real father." She clutched Mason's jacket. "Tyler, please." I opened the front door. "Leave, while I still have the decency not to call the police." She stood there for a second, stunned, then turned, gathered a few bags, called the kids downstairs. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't watch. But I heard it, her car pulling away, a door closing behind years of deception. Silence filled the house. I stood in the hallway, still. And then, for the first time in weeks, I exhaled. Not in relief, not in peace, but in control. I thought the storm had passed, but it was only the eye. 2 days after I threw her out, I got served again. This time, I was the target. Emergency motion for temporary occupancy of the marital home on the grounds of disruption of minor children's living situation, accompanied by a temporary restraining order. I was prohibited from coming within 100 meters of the house. It felt like a slap in the face. She lied, she cheated, she got pregnant with another man's children, and now she wanted to throw me out of my own house? I stared at the papers, fists clenched. Unbelievable. Madison didn't even blink. We knew this was coming. Veronica nodded. And we're ready. By Thursday, we were sitting in mediation. Fluorescent lights, stale coffee, smug lawyers. Alyssa didn't look at me. She wore a gray blazer, hair perfect, makeup flawless. A show, but her hands trembled slightly. Her attorney spoke first. Mrs. Adams is requesting temporary re-entry into the residence for the sake of the children's stability. She also requests interim support, as Mr. Adams is the primary earner with significant assets and business equity. I almost laughed. Veronica didn't. She simply opened a folder. Your Honor, she said coolly, my client has provided the following documentation. She handed over copies of Tyler's reduced salary contract, proof of 401k liquidation, evidence of asset transfer into a protected trust, a formal letter from the company's accountant showing that Tyler currently owes debt to the firm's pension plan. Mr. Adams has limited available income, she continued, and is currently in a negative net worth position due to recent business restructuring. Alyssa's lawyer blinked. That can't be right. He owned, Veronica cut in. Not anymore. And then came the second blow. Veronica pulled out another envelope. Furthermore, we submit this DNA test results confirming Mr. Adams is not the biological father of either child. Gasps. Even Alyssa looked shocked, like she hadn't expected that part to be presented so early. Her lawyer stammered. What relevance does... The relevance, Veronica said icily, is that my client was fraudulently named on both children's birth certificates. His name was used without factual basis, which affects custody, support, and legal responsibility. She let that hang in the air. And we're filing a separate civil claim for emotional damages, coerced sterilization under false pretense, and deliberate paternity misrepresentation. Alyssa's face turned ghost white. And finally, Veronica added, this. She slid over a hard drive. Surveillance footage from the Adams residence. It shows Mrs. Adams welcoming her boss, Mr. Jordan Wolfe, into the house repeatedly, while Mr. Adams was away, with physical affection, with the children present. One child refers to Mr. Wolfe as Daddy. No one spoke. Even the mediator looked shaken. Alyssa's lawyer leaned over, whispered something urgently. She shook her head, eyes wide. The silence was deafening. Outside the room, Madison handed me a coffee. I hadn't realized how cold my hands were until I touched the cup. She's unraveling, Madison said. You held the line. That's what matters. She tried to paint me as unstable, I muttered, as dangerous. Madison looked me in the eye. But you came in calm, prepared. That's what wins. 2 days later, we got the result. Alyssa's emergency motion was denied. The court upheld Tyler's occupancy. Restraining order? Lifted. Custody? Pending investigation, since paternity was in dispute. Support? Frozen. But that wasn't all. Veronica had filed a notice of claim against Jordan Wolfe's company, citing gross misconduct, failure to enforce internal policies, and moral hazard from senior leadership. Within 48 hours, HR announced Jordan Wolfe's termination, effective immediately. No severance, no pension, just a cold email and a cardboard box. Later that night, I stood in my kitchen, alone, still. The house felt empty but not haunted, quiet but not sad. Mine again. My phone buzzed. Alyssa. Ignored. It buzzed again. Stephanie Wolfe. I stared at the screen. Then I picked up. Tyler, she began. I know, I said. He lost his job. She exhaled. He lost everything. I stayed silent. She paused, then asked, voice barely above a whisper, what are you going to do next? I looked around my house, the house she tried to steal, the life she tried to erase. I smiled. Take it all back. 3 weeks had passed since the last confrontation. No more court summons, no more angry voicemails, no more fake apologies. The house was quiet, still, but not empty. It was mine again. For the first time in nearly a decade, the space I lived in didn't echo with someone else's lies. I had packed away the remnants of our shared life. I had closed doors on memories I once held sacred. The pain was still there, but it was quieter now. Less like a scream, more like a bruise that no longer demanded attention. Then one Thursday afternoon, Madison walked into my office without knocking. She had her phone in one hand, her face pale, unreadable. "Tyler," she said carefully, "you might want to sit down." I didn't move. She set the phone on my desk and pressed play on a news clip. Breaking: former executive Jordan Wolfe has been shot and killed in what police are calling a domestic homicide. Sources confirm the suspect is his wife, Stephanie Wolfe. I blinked. My breath caught in my throat. The report continued. Stephanie had followed her husband to a hotel earlier that week, where she found him, once again, with Alyssa. After everything he had lost, he was still seeing her, still sneaking around like none of it mattered. Stephanie didn't scream. She didn't make a scene. She waited. She followed him home. And that night, she walked into the kitchen and pulled the trigger. One shot, straight to the chest. He was gone before he even hit the floor. I sat there for a long moment, letting the weight of it settle. Madison finally broke the silence. "Are you okay?" I leaned back in my chair. My voice came out quieter than I expected. That couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. The following week, I sold the house. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. There was too much of her in those walls. Too many echoes of a life that had been built on deception. The sale cleared my debts, repaid the pension loan, and gave me just enough to start fresh. No more courtroom visits, no more negotiations. Veronica had tied up every loose end. Alyssa got nothing more than what the law allowed, and even that felt generous. No house, no alimony, no stake in my company, just her last name and her shame. The judge issued a final ruling that required her to vacate any claims to shared assets. Her name was stripped from every document she once signed. The custody question was left unresolved, for now, but I knew she wouldn't fight it. Not after everything. Jordan was gone. Stephanie had vanished from public view. Alyssa had become a ghost in her own skin. Me? I was finally free. One evening, Madison stopped by after work. No agenda, no legal paperwork, just dinner. She brought wine and takeout. We sat on the balcony of my new condo, looking out at a city that felt different somehow. Not because it had changed, but because I had. She leaned against the railing, sipping her wine slowly. "I never imagined we'd get to this side of it," she said quietly. "Neither did I admitted. For years, I watched you hold everything together. For her, for the kids, for the business. And through it all, you stayed loyal. Even when she didn't deserve it." She paused. "And I stayed away, because that's what loyalty looked like too." I looked at her then, really looked. She had been there the whole time. Not just physically, but in every way that mattered. She saw me when I was blind. She believed in me when I doubted myself. And now she was still here, without expectation, without demands. I swallowed hard. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" She gave a sad little smile. "Because you weren't mine to love. Not yet." I didn't answer right away. The wind moved gently around us, warm and quiet. Then I reached for her hand. Her fingers curled around mine without hesitation. There were no fireworks, no grand declarations, just a breath of something honest, real. And then softly I asked her, "How many children do you want?" She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her smile said everything. And for the first time in years, I believed in something again. After everything I've been through, I've come to realize one thing. Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who break us the worst. But even in the wreckage, we still have a choice: to stay broken or to rise and rebuild on something real. If you're stuck in a story like mine, if you've been betrayed to, used, or made to feel small, please hear this. You deserve more. Get up. Walk away. We're worth more than the pain they left us with. Hit like and comment if you believe betrayal deserves consequences. And subscribe for more real, raw stories, where secrets get exposed, lies fall apart, and justice always finds a way. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.